You're live.
All right, good morning. It's 11 a.m. Tuesday, September 9th. It's a meeting of the Public Safety Committee. All members are present. I'd like to call to order and acknowledge that the meeting to order, acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The first item of business is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Next item is approval of the previous meeting minutes. Our August 5th, 2025 meeting minutes are in the packet.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any updates, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item of the agenda is a special presentation by the BCD Council of Government on an update of mobility study progress.
Yeah,
So
I would just,
assume that,
yeah, I would just, go
Either
ahead.
sit here or just go up there. Or
This is Catherine Bashel with the Council of Governments. Catherine, you want to sit here with the mic and just be sure you talk into the mic? Just as way of an update, this is a project that's underway with through the city and Explore Charleston. Council of Governments has done a lot of good work that Catherine will update you on. And there's still a lot to be done, but I just kind of wanted them to check in with you all and let you know where they are and what their next steps are, and just tell you about the project.
So I have several staff members working with us on this. And what we've started doing, and actually pretty much wrapped up since we started on the project, is done an inventory of all of the non-vehicular facilities that the island has right now, like where are the sidewalks, where are trails, and then gone through and assessed what the condition of them are, where there seems to be gaps in terms of the connectivity, where there's evidence of flooding. Though they came out a couple of times right after rains to see where those facilities are flooded out. And basically, you know, where is there not safe separation between vehicular traffic and sidewalks or paths to put that together. And then what they've done is develop these maps so that we can get public input on, you know, where are the facilities that you use the most, and where do you note that there's issues every day when you're going back and forth or using these. Where do you wish that there were sidewalks, but there aren't? And then basically, so we can put together a list of what are the improvements that need to be made and gather that input. We've been working on setting up a public open house for October 20th at the rec center. We're meeting with you all today. We're meeting with the chamber in 2 weeks, the 23rd, to gather input. If there's other stakeholder groups that you think that we should be meeting with and talking with, we're happy to do that. But we did bring the maps here so that if you all want to mark them up and tell us your personal input.
So the meeting on the 20th is open to the public, and is
That's
going to be
correct.
for public input?
That's correct. Part of this process is to just engage the public, see what their thoughts are on the needs in terms of mobility.
What time are we going to set that for? Do we have any?
5:30? Okay.
Yeah.
Get Chandra, 'cause
And
she's-
it'll be a drop-in, I think, not
Okay.
a
Right.
presentation really, but set up all of their materials, have people staffing all of the
We've done
various
that
stations.
before
Yeah.
for various.
Yeah.
So you could kind of come, at your leisure, walk through, talk with some of the staff members
We'll
about
have
the
these
project.
maps of what we've collected in terms of information, where people have, through these stakeholder groups, have identified, here's where priority projects might be, or where they've noticed these huge gaps, and then just try to get more public input on, you know, where else should we basically be focusing in terms of identifying where the city should invest in terms of improving all that. And we also, I should mention, we developed a public survey that will be out on the web that people can actually, we were going to release that about the same time as we started advertising the open house with the similar questions. So the open house will ask similar questions to the survey, but if we get some preliminary feedback from the survey, we can display that at the open house as well.
Okay. Since it's an open house, it helps if people are just going to drop in. Is it a 2-hour window, or how long do you usually have? Okay.
Yeah, too, yeah.
Okay, and then I have a second question is, what about multi-use paths? Are you going to consider those as part of this project, or specifically sidewalks?
No, we've looked at all the multi-use paths. We've looked at where the bike lanes are marked, and tried to observe a little bit about where people are moving where there aren't the facilities.
Okay, so it's not,
Example given Palm Boulevard
Okay.
with the bicyclists.
so it's non-motorized
Pretty much
activity?
looking at non-motorized, and we've also kind of put in there some questions about golf carts and.
Okay, and that was the
RVs.
other one I was just
Yeah.
going to ask about, yeah.
Yeah, we have internally been called, we initially called this the walkability study.
Yeah.
And we have been talking about the fact that we would like for it to include kind of everything except cars. So that's, we've.
Trucks, not trucks.
We have, everything but, yeah, motorized vehicles. So we have shifted the name to the mobility study
Yeah.
to kind of be a little bit more encompassing.
This is just the
mentioned-
connector too, right? It's not it doesn't include the connector, just the island.
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
We're looking at the connections to the connector.
Yeah.
Yeah, the internal connections, right.
Yeah, and the other question is, I didn't see a date, I didn't look carefully, but when was the data collected that's on these maps?
We collected the information pretty much in May and June, and then did some additional back checking on some of that stuff in
So-
July.
so that's
So
this
it's very
summer.
recent, right.
Okay, it's very, so it's up to date, so any residents that see variations that they know exist today,
Right.
they'll note it, okay.
Right.
And the one that comes to mind for me is the county just upgraded the sidewalk on
Right.
21st
Right. And
Avenue.
we've also been making note of anything else that's already in the plans and funded, so that, we can
Waterway.
identify those.
Yeah, yeah.
Off the bat, right. It's been interesting. So, full disclosure, I'm an island resident, so it's been really interesting having my staff members come back and tell me what they're seeing, because it's, off the top of my head, I can say to them, well, that floods.
Yeah.
And that happens, and that happens, but them coming back and saying, what's the deal with this, so it's been,
Yeah, we've got a lot of missing links that we certainly need help with.
Right.
And the county did not do a good job on 21st Avenue. It floods. I don't know, did you know that? Yeah, right there in front of the church at the bend. Where it flooded before, it floods now.
Yeah, that was just a sidewalk replacement. That was not a flood, that wasn't a drainage project. So I don't know.
When you do a job, you do it right. That's my opinion, anyway.
And you mentioned you're going to get in front of the Chamber of Commerce on the 23rd, I think it is. Is that, you're going to do a presentation much like what you're doing here,
Right.
just kind of a
Yeah.
informal?
yeah, we're basically at this point of starting to kind of double check
Right.
what we've found, what our data is showing. We've also mapped the latest data information that we have from the state in terms, and mostly focused on bike and ped accidents. Though we have maps of everything, so we've kind of culled that down, but, so it's just really for us, is we've gathered all the existing conditions, and now we want to vet that with the public so that we know, like, where should the focus be moving forward on a plan.
We have a growing chamber. I mean, they've got quite a few members now, but we still have a lot of businesses that aren't a part of the chamber, so I don't know what role we need to play, if any, in the city, but Douglas, it would seem to me we want to make sure we really publicize this as much as possible so that every business, maybe that's not connected to the chamber, might have a chance to weigh in also. Since we have, the entire
Right.
front beach, the strip over here,
Right. Yeah, well,
Islander
absolutely.
outpost. So,
Yeah, we'll make a concerted effort to get the word out on the dates and the open house to get feedback from everybody.
good.
Could we do an e-blast on that? Would that be
Yeah.
one of the things? Thank
Do
you.
that. So ultimately, we're hopeful that this process will lead us to, and we have funding opportunities that come up through chats, through transportation grants. We're hopeful to have a priority list that we can kind of just work through, low-hanging fruit beginning and kind of work through and make improvements. We're doing that a little bit haphazardly now. You know, we kind of chat amongst ourselves and say, hey, we think this would be a good project, but we feel good that at the end of this, we'll have a better kind of vetted list of priorities that we can tackle over time.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay.
And later on in the agenda, I see that we're going to talk about golf cart paths as well, so be good to, as much as, it would be nice to have them have their own right-of-way.
Right. And I should say too, well, you'll see on the maps when we've measured all the rights of way and
Yeah.
for the non-motorist facilities, so.
Good.
Thank-
Well, thank you.
Questions? Sure.
Appreciate that.
Catherine.
Yeah, and I'll leave these maps here, so you
Thank
can
you.
feel
Yes.
free
Okay.
to go ahead and mark them up.
And those are the same maps that I
Those
can.
are the same maps that
Yeah,
are shown on the screen.
I'll distribute them electronically so you have those too.
Right. And when you go to do the survey, there's a mapping tool in the survey, so people will be able to identify locations on the map in the survey itself when they do that online. So,
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
thanks.
All right, moving on to old business. The first item under old business is discussion of traffic data at the intersection of 41st Avenue and Forest Trails. And I guess just as a matter of background here, this started as a request from some residents that they've noticed that there's an increase in people running the stop sign that's at 41st Avenue and Forest Trails, and noticed that there was not a painted stop line there at that intersection, and requested to be painted. I think Councilman Streetman reminded us that that was put in, well, actually 4 years ago, 21, I think. And at that time that they agreed that they would review the data in 3 months or something like that. And so we are reviewing the data. I think since that point, though, I mean, right after our meeting, I think DOT went out and put lines in. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
That's correct.
Douglas, but,
Just that their correspondence back to me, they went out, they put the lines in. Their correspondence back to me is that office wasn't aware of the temporary kind of pilot situation that we're describing. They did say that if the city wanted for them to go back and advise them on removing it, kind of whatever the wish of the committee would be, to relay that to them, or the wish of the city, relay that to them, and they'll take it under advisement. But they, I guess, their indication to us was that from their perspective, they're seeing it as a permanent change, unless we tell them otherwise.
So-
And that could just be a matter of the staffing that's there now versus that was in place at the time. I'm guessing there probably is some lost dialogue. So that was a little bit of that happened not as a planned thing, that they would show up really almost on the heels of your last meeting and go ahead and make those markings.
Well, I think, Douglas, if I remember correctly, they had already issued somewhat of an agreement or a work order that they were going to do that anyway. Chief, I think probably you may be up to date on that. And when I brought up the unfinished business from years ago, it was with that in mind that before we actually paint the stops, let's go back and review the data that we had promised to review several years ago. I don't have a problem, I'm happy that they came out and painted the stop sign, the stop lines. That's fine with me. What I wanted us to do, and, still want us to do, basically, is to make sure that council has a chance to review the data that's been gathered, and, just make sure that we finish the business that we started a few years ago and sign off on it. Because at the time, there was some discussion, quite a bit of discussion, having been on council at that time, that was there even a need for the stop sign in that area? Because we had stop sign at the three-way stop, probably no more than 0.2 of a mile away. I haven't measured it, but I'm thinking that's about right. And so that's the reason that it ended up being a temporary stop sign placed there at Wildwood, Forest Trail, and 41st, is because it was to be evaluated. So that's where we are.
So Chief, do you want to review these numbers? Do you think, I assume you put them together? or
I
have them
did,
put
yes, sir.
together? Yeah.
I used the existing radar that was already on 41st. It was there before the four-way stop was in place and remains there now. And I can tell you, I even went back the last 3 years and looked at our monthly reports. If you look at the police department monthly reports, the last page of our report before you get to parking includes the data that comes from the radar on 41st Avenue. And I can tell you, these numbers are still consistent with the numbers that we're seeing today and have over the last 3 years. So even before the stop sign went in place and post-stop signs going in place, the average speed is between 22 and 23 miles an hour on 41st Avenue, which is in compliance with the law. Do you have some people that speed? Yes. And when you read them, your higher numbers sometimes won't necessarily mean that somebody was going 50 miles an hour. It could mean that the radar captured two vehicles at one time in a batch read, and so it might show higher. Doesn't mean that there wasn't somebody going 57 miles an hour either. That does happen sometimes. You have to remember, too, you have emergency vehicles that shouldn't be going that fast, but if they're coming through and they're batched with another vehicle, that'll elevate that speed.
So we pick up an aggregate speed of the two?
Sometimes it can. There's a reason law enforcement has started to transition away from radars and to LiDARs. LiDARs are more direct. It's a specific, pick out a vehicle. Radar is more of a band
Yeah.
that kind of goes out.
Okay.
Chief,
But
what data, you say this is from March through May, it's 3 months data, from what year?
This was the year that we put the stop signs in. So I went 3
This is
months.
22.
Correct. It was
yeah.
3 months before the stop signs were in
Yeah,
place, and then 3 months after the stop signs were in place. And then, just on my own, I went through the monthly reports
Yeah.
from 2023. I grabbed a couple from 23, a couple from 24, and
Yeah.
some from 25, and the data's still very similar, that it is about 20 to 23 miles an hour is the average speed on 41st.
And that was the average speed even prior to us putting the additional stop sign up?
That's correct.
So it
And I-
hasn't varied that much?
It has not, but I'll tell you, one of the things DOT looks for when they're looking at four-way stops to add or to remove, typically it's collision-related data, and the collision data would not, there's not significant collisions along 41st Avenue, numbers at all, very few collisions in that area. But the speed was kind of what was used at that time to determine putting them in place, and it stays the same now as it was right after the sign went in place and just before.
Well, on this, I mean, I'll just mention a few things that I noticed on it, and I agree that the marginal side, which I assume is the side on the other side from where the marina is,
Correct.
that showed a more significant improvement. I mean, it showed average speeds, even though they're under, going from 22.7 miles an average speed down to 19.4. But the thing that really got me is the percent 25 miles or less went from 80% roughly to 97, 98%, which is a pretty significant improvement there on that. Now, the other side, the Wildwood side, for some reason, is not showing the same type of improvement. I was just wondering why that would be the case. It's,
I can't explain why, but I do see it. It is definitely, there was a bigger or increase on the marginal side for people that are in compliance with the law. I'm not sure why there's a difference on the two. One could argue there's the stop signs a little bit further away than the marina, maybe.
so you get more speed.
Well, maybe, but I don't know for sure.
The way I read this data is coming from the marina, and what I saw the stop signs, and our intention to have it was to reduce the speed. That we don't want speeders, and there's a 20 mile an hour decrease in the maximum speeds between prior to the four-way stop and after the four-way stop. So the average speed has always been low and has always been appropriate for that street, but the speeding has been reduced by the stop sign from what I see for the marginal side. Wildwood side is not as good. It looks like toward the marina, it might have been a 10 mile an hour decrease in maximum speed. And I think what we're seeing there is probably people coming along Palm Boulevard make the turn, and they're just speed, it's a higher volume, higher speed road that they're coming off of, so they're probably still cruising a little bit higher than we want. So to me, the stop sign has reduced the maximum speed of vehicles on that road. I see it as doing its job. And accident data, to me, a stop sign can increase rear-end collisions because people aren't expecting the stop. And if that isn't happening, then there's no downside to that stop sign.
Correct. There's been no change in collision data on 41st.
Have there been any collisions at that four-way stop that you know of?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. There could have been some, but I'm not aware of any right off the top of my
And
head.
also, the maximum speed is, again, it could be error-ridden to some extent, too.
Certainly, with any radar, there's
Yeah.
a chance of some error.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more encouraged by the percent that's under the 25 mile an hour. That shows me that it's working,
Yeah.
especially when you have that dramatic of an improvement going from, roughly 80% to 98% or 97%. That's a
Yeah.
big improvement in compliance, I think. So
And it has
it
helped.
sounds like it is doing its job, but I don't know what we want to do with this data. If we want to,
Is this on the agenda for the workshop at all? Or is this just something still just in committee?
Just in committee, and I guess I would say, knowing that the DOT is considering it permanent, I would say unless you all see a compelling need to backtrack that position, I don't think there's anything that you would need to do.
I'd like to hear from the chief, his thoughts on it, and I would weigh in.
I don't think it certainly has not hurt having it there. The complaints about people that disregard the stop sign, almost every intersection where we have multiple stop signs, we'll have some people that will roll through it. And that just increases our traffic enforcement on that area. And so that in itself decreases speed. So I don't see a negative having it there and would certainly don't see any argument to go to DOT and ask them to change their mind on anything.
That being said, I'm willing to just leave it alone.
Okay, do we need to have council, you brought it up because council said it was temporary. Does council need to agree that?
If our committee says that the business is finished with this, that we've evaluated the data and agree with the chief, I think we just
Yeah, that's,
drop it.
do we need
That's
to take a
correct.
vote?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either.
No.
Okay, great. The next item on the agenda is update on breach inlet signage and parking. I guess parking's new, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really just the signage.
Oh, okay.
Chief Oliveris has been
Yeah.
point contact for this.
Did something with it.
No,
So the sign designer recommended that we view one proof of the sign where it's on the metal backing, just to make sure we're happy with it because we have 9 of those that we're going to purchase. So once that arrives to us, it's an 18 by 24 inch sign. As long as it looks good, like we anticipate it will, then we will have those signs installed. We'll work with Public Works to put them on the beach access paths from 5th down to Breach Inlet. So we should see that real-time proof in the end of this week or early next week.
And these are also the ones that are on Breach Inlet itself, out on the.
Correct,
On the paths.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Did we end up being able to put the fine amount? I know we talked about that, whether our fine's different than.
Correct. Our fine amount is listed on that,
It is.
on the
Yeah,
proof.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
yeah, the signs are otherwise identical on Sullivan's and our side, but the fine will be different.
Okay,
Correct.
all right, any questions?
Nope.
All right, great, thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
The next item of business is discussion of changes to the noise ordinance and nighttime noise levels. I guess as a matter of background there, we talked about this, I don't know, 2 meetings, I think now. And the last meeting, we had agreed that we would look at some language and talk to David Cohen, who actually is here, as he was very involved through the planning commission in the last wording of the noise ordinance, and I'll classify him as an expert in noise. And so that has been done, and a draft ordinance is in the packet. I guess Also, Douglas, this is on the Planning Commission's agenda, correct, for this afternoon?
It is not.
Oh, it's not? Okay, I thought it was, I had heard it was on the Planning Commission. Then we will, I was wrong. I heard wrong.
They meet tomorrow.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
No, it could be,
yeah.
it could be given to them for further study if you all wanted to.
Well, we can decide what we want. First, we can talk about the ordinance, so
There was, a-
Yeah, well, go ahead,
there
Jim.
was an issue, I thought it came up with the administrative committee about noise. And for some reason,
No, the
No, that's-
administration
that's a
committee is
different
something
issue.
different, and I think that's on the agenda for today at the workshop.
That's correct.
But
Okay.
the noise ordinance,
Yeah.
erase what I said.
Now, this,
Any, any comments on this draft?
Chair, if I could, first off, I would like to personally thank David, who is in the room, for all the work, time, and effort on the planning commission that he's put into noise ordinance discussions over the many years we've been talking about it. And I gotta be honest with you, I think with the language changes in here, I'm good with. I mean, I think the body of the ordinance itself is a good one. The only thing that I'm still hung up about and I can't get comfortable with is the decibel level of a recommendation of 55 dBA. And for me, that's where it's worthy of more council discussion that we have to, since we've never been able to do it, we've never been able to really land on what that dBA should be. And, but the rest of the language, the way it reads, I don't really take exception with any of the red line here
we're
at all.
talking about decibel level just between
I
10
got it.
PM
10 PM
and 7 AM. Okay,
I know,
and that's the only
I know,
one.
but that's still.
And it's 55 decibels
I-
in here. Okay.
I fully understand that, and I respect your recommendation on it, Jan.
I'm just saying it for the public.
One of the things we could do is have David come up here and talk about that, but I think the way, and it was crafted here, which is maybe somewhat different, is that is at the edge of a property. So if the source of that is, say, 50 feet away or whatever it is, he's got formulas on how much it increase, but it's, it could be significantly louder at the source. It doesn't mean that you're at 55 decibels, say you're playing music or you're talking or whatever, it's higher at the source. It's saying at the property limit, it's 55. So that is a distinguishing factor here, but I agree that, that's where we got hung up last time on this thing, is no one knew what 50 decibels, it was 50 decibels at night last time, actually, so it's increased by, the proposal was, so it's increased by 5, but what that means, but I think in context to me, what this does, and I made these comments at our last meeting, is that I think it's up to us to set a vision of what we want the community to be, and this, family-friendly, and what this does is doesn't say anything about decibel levels at noise. So, what it implies is we don't want, kids in pools and all that kind of stuff to be noise violations. But what we do want is that is that nighttime should be sacred. After this time's at night, you should not hear noise from neighbors in the neighborhood in your home. And I think that's kind of is what the intent of this is and what we're trying to do with the ordinance, to me at least. And I think that, the 55, I don't know, David, do you want to come up here and have any input on what 55 decibels are? I can try. Yeah, I mean, why
Tried
don't you?
before.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yeah.
So that 50, 55 night's pretty common in a lot of noise ordinances. And to kind of give you, if you were standing outside in the hallway right now with the door open, you'd probably be measuring about 55. Just the conversation going on in this room being that distance away. So if that kind of gives you some kind of idea. Like John was saying, if a vacuum cleaner, they say is about 70 dB. If I'm 20 feet away from somebody running a vacuum cleaner in their garage, 55 is about the level I'd be hearing at the property line. And that number kind of equates as you go through the wall of a house, that should get you down to a level, an ambient level inside the house of around 30 to 35, which is typical of a house at night with nothing
With
on.
everybody asleep.
So that was kind of where that 55 comes in. That's, like I said, a pretty common, it's a very low measurement. But again, if we were sitting on a porch of somebody's house and this group talking and there's 20 feet away, you'd probably be about at that level of 55.
Right.
Now, in the ordinance, again, the kind of, I guess, in my way I was kind of reading it, since you're already addressing voices, us talking would be in violation of that second one because you could hear it standing in the hallway, it would be plainly audible. You could tell people are talking. So that would be a violation regardless of the 55. The 55 would be more like somebody's air conditioner has a bad bearing and it just makes a screeching noise, or their pool pump's cavitating all night long. Those are the type of noises that would probably potentially go above the 55 level. So it is a little bit higher. You'd still hear the noise. It would not, it's a little bit higher than the critique for voices and music. And that was my understanding, it was to catch other noises. It's not covered by that. And like I said, the only things I can come to mind would be, like I said, somebody's air conditioner with a bad bearing in it and the fan's just screeching all night long, or the alarm's going off or something like that type of noise. And that's kind of a catch-all for.
And there are some heated pools that have the huge propane tanks, and sometimes they make that sort of continuous noise
Right,
too.
and I talked to John about that, was pool pumps would be kind of another one that would get in that area, but almost all of them, you can either put them on a timer or variable speed pool pumps that go into low speed at night. When you're running the cleaning of a pool, and if it's 10 feet from the property line, it would be probably violated at nighttime, that 55.
Our neighbors in Mount Pleasant at Shim Creek put in, what did they put in, 50 or 55 on Shim Creek
I think
some
they
years
put-
ago?
It was pretty low. I thought it was 50.
I think it's
You have
50.
the- Yeah.
I don't know that the level of enforcement they have, and that's Mount Pleasant, not Isle of Palms, but still give us some comparison there of a neighbor and what they're doing. Again, the language is in the body of the ordinance. I got this red line, I have no real issue with. The only thing I want to just have further discussion on, and think we should, is we need to have the council.
Yeah, we'll
Weigh in on
definitely, yeah.
that.
So I guess
On the
with that,
55.
with that being said, what do we want to do with this? We can't take it to workshop today,
Correct.
but we can potentially just take it to council. We could take it to workshop next month, and then council in October, or.
I'd like to recommend that we bring this to council as amended with a 55 decibel limit, see what happens,
So in September,
whenever
the
it's,
council meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the typical process would be to go through workshop first.
yeah.
I don't know if sometimes I think if there's a compelling reason to accelerate, we probably could put it directly to
No, I don't
council,
think
but
there's any rush to.
No. Then-
I would say, and something we'll do as just a matter of course is put this through a legal review, and I guess sitting here reading it, I'm noticing that the only reference to spoken speech, comprehension of voice, is in defining plainly audible. But when you go back up to the section above, the first sentence says you can't make noise higher than 55. Then that second part says, additionally, at nighttime, it shall be unlawful to play, operate, or cause to be played, operated, radio, amplified music, amplification, or apparatus. It's almost as though the speech, I'm not positive that it's made,
Keep going, though. It says it there, right? It says,
Oh, it
or
says-
making sound or cause any sound created by yelling, screaming, or loud talking.
yeah, okay, yeah, that is,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So I think we got it.
So we catch it all.
The only thing I have is that, this is a age-old thing, is that during daytime, do we need to have an exclusion for the front beach area?
Well, you're getting into the territory that got I guess all of this was covered in an initial draft of the noise ordinance. I think the more layers you added to it.
I
it
agree
got-
with you. I just don't want to try
Yeah.
to create an ordinance, though, that we're in violation. Chief, what's your,
That's one of my biggest hangups is this, there is at least one business, possibly two, in Front Beach that would be in violation of this every weekend, I would imagine.
and
So-
so that's why, that's the only thing I have.
But doesn't their music end at 11, 10 or 11?
Some of them have, yes, they will end theirs around 9, between 9 and 10. Others stay operational a little bit later. And that's just something, as it's written now, we would have to go shut that down at those businesses if this passed.
Do we need to put in something, maybe that they require a special permit if they are making the loud noises after a certain time, or?
They're doing it every weekend.
They are, this is their standard operating procedure on weekends.
Well,
I thought they were pretty well insulated indoors, but it still is loud enough outdoors to,
There is, one business will close, they shut all outside bands down by 9 o'clock.
yeah.
And by that point, by 10 o'clock, they're inside. But there are two other businesses in the Front Beach area that will have music still playing outside of their establishment at that time, or beyond that time.
well, there's no decibels for daytime. This is that would be daytime to me. right?
No, that would be nighttime. I'm talking after
Yeah.
10 PM
After 10
or
PM.
11 PM.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I think what we're trying to do is make it so that 10 o'clock is, I don't want to say lights out, but, quiet time, even for Front Beach. They could still stay in the establishment, they can still have drinks or whatever, and it's just that the music is either going to have to be toned down or shut down by 10 o'clock. Or we could make it 11 o'clock in the weekends, I think it does.
It is 11 o'clock
Yeah.
on the weekends.
So, I think we
And
just,
And did the time during daytime hours need to be adjusted from 7 AM to 10 PM, since the other one is, I think, right?
Yes, sir, I think to make
Yeah.
it match.
Yeah.
yeah, we need to match that.
Well, my recommendation is that
All right.
we bring this back to our committee in October, and we talk about it one more time and decide, and then take it to workshop in October. I think that's the right protocol, right? Is to take it to workshop.
Right, I think
Do you
so.
agree with that,
Yeah.
Rusty?
I'm good with that if we want to bring it back to
One more
committee one
time.
more time to
Yeah.
talk it through.
And then go to workshop, and then to council potentially.
Sounds good to me, Chair.
Do you agree, Jan?
Yeah, and there's one more, well, I think that's enough for this time.
I think we have a typo in the ANSI reference as well,
Thanks,
so we'll
Dave.
Thank you.
sort that out.
All right, the next item is discussion of e-bike and motorized scooter regulations. This is, I think, Chief, you've done some work on this, and there's some information on what some other communities have done regarding e-bikes, and you also included our e-bike brochure that you put together. But you want to kind of go through what you found?
Yes, sir. So when I started looking into it, some of the two communities I found that really had a good grasp on this and had done a lot of work with ordinances pertaining to e-bikes specifically were Hilton Head Island and Mount Pleasant. Now, the difference in Hilton Head Island is that majority of their island has bike paths. And then Mount Pleasant has several bike paths as well. So there's a little difference there because of those bike paths and what you can regulate and cannot regulate on there, I think is a little different. So when I looked at state statute, it gives the municipalities the ability to regulate the operation of bicycles and requiring the registration and licensing of them, including registration fees. Where I was not sure is some of the ordinances that I saw pertaining to bike paths, I'm not sure about our legal ability to do that on roadways. And that would be something where we would, because it's very specific that it cannot conflict with state law, our ordinances. So that would be something, anything we draft, we would definitely want to make sure that our legal is weighing that to see where we're at with it and what we can and cannot do. But both of them, I think, did a good job at using state statute to define an e-bike, since state statute has a good definition of what is considered an electric assist bike, and that's all spelled out in that memo to you. And then beneath that, I went into each of the islands, or Hilton Head Island and Mount Pleasant, their ordinances and some of the things that I thought that stood out to me. When you look at the ones that I attached to your packet, you'll see some are highlighted. These are things that I definitely think are easy for us to put in place, like Hilton Head Island requires any bike or any business that's renting or selling them to just provide information to the individual that's renting it or buying it about safety and those things. That's where that brochure would come in place. We could just have them hand that out. And then Mount Pleasant is a lot more, they have a lot more ordinances in place for theirs, and that's something, I even included the most recent ordinance that passed for them, which regulated a speed limit for their e-bikes, which was passed back in August for them. I think they wound up changing it to a 12 miles per hour, and that's on sidewalks and or shared use path. I'm not sure yet I'm curious to see how they will measure that speed with the radar. It's almost vehicle position. If you don't know, the radar is inside of the vehicle, it's fixed. We could turn it a little bit on the inside, but it's kind of fixed and requires us to be able to face towards the object that is traveling. We've got one in the back so we can catch any vehicles traveling toward the vehicle or away from us, or it's in the front, same thing. Can't really turn it sideways, but we do have handheld radars, which we can then use those for it, but we only have limited numbers of those. We actually are, I just asked our traffic sergeant to look at applying for a grant to purchase new handheld radars for those, because it's time to replace them.
But that's almost like, you're saying, okay, we're going to put 12 miles an hour max in there, but it's probably not that enforceable easily.
Well,
But it's like, okay, it's the letter of the law, so to speak, and so most people hopefully will comply with that.
Correct. Some of the other things I'm unsure about is prosecuting a juvenile for a bicycle law violation. We can issue citations to somebody who has a driver's license. State law gives us the ability, any juvenile minor who has a driver's license, we can issue traffic violations for, and then you can issue violations or citations for hunting and fishing. But aside from that, it has to go through family court. And so that would be something, again, where I'm not sure how we would travel along that or traverse the system with a bicycle ordinance violation and sending that to family court or youth arbitration or something like that.
Can a citation be issued to the parents?
You could, but then, you have to show that they knowingly allowed somebody to violate the law. And so that's hard to do, especially if you do like a speeding thing. I think things like helmets are something that I think are important. But again, because I have kids and I know how they work, they will have that helmet on when they leave my house, and I don't know what they're going to do when they get down the street. One of my neighbors will probably wind up telling me, and they'll find out that I know, but that's the reality, is we can only control them so much, especially when they get into those, where half of mine are right now, in those preteen years, that they're very rebellious.
How do you, so is there a law, a way to enforce the helmet law now?
Not really for us, there's not. That would be something that I think we would need to look at. When we come to minors, they are required to have helmets. And I think most of them are, I don't have the age in front of me, but it's a very young age. Now, some of the other towns have added a ordinance, I'm sorry, it was Mount Pleasant that added one for anyone under the age of
Like 18?
18, I think it was.
Yeah,
Under 21.
21.
Anyone under 21.
Any adult can be,
That's Hilton Head 21.
yeah.
Right. And then they also do not allow you to ride your bicycles on the sidewalk unless you're a minor, which is, There are other municipalities that don't allow bicycles on sidewalks either. Not necessarily something I would recommend that we move toward. But one thing they do all have that I think we should definitely look at would be something that gives, if they are riding in a way that is destructing property. Right now, we would treat that as vandalism, and so we have an avenue to address that as it is, but that's something that we are seeing with a lot of these e-bikes, is that they are using them and cutting donuts and wheelies, and like the rec center, they've had some issues with kids doing that out there.
Yeah.
Chief, it seems like a lot of these are already state law, and they're reinforcing state law.
Most, especially Hilton Head, they do, a lot of them, especially when they're defining e-bikes, but when they get into paths, they can do things that we can't necessarily enforce on a roadway. Every bicycle has to follow the rules of the laws of the road when they're riding on the roadway. That means stopping at stop signs.
Right.
Using your hand and arm signals.
All that. So my question to you, though, do we as a municipality need to also pass something that says we already can enforce state law, right? All we have to do, we don't have to pass our own ordinance to say we're going to pass state, to enforce state law. I mean, you can already do that. I think the key thing there is to communicate what the state law is. Like, hey, this is, here's the state law regarding e-bikes. I don't know if we need to pass it, but my question is what things, and I haven't looked all through this, it seemed like the majority of the things were already law, but what things that aren't state law that you would suggest we also look at in terms of e-bike regulation?
I think if we did any, and most of them, like you said, are state laws, and those are easy to enforce. Anything outside of that, I feel like we would definitely want to make sure that we have legal ability to enforce those and make sure they don't conflict. But there was nothing really that stood out to me that's outside of state law that we can enforce. The difficulty comes in, and this is something Joe Bustos has pointed out, the difficulty comes in with dealing with minors and how we're able to enforce laws on minors, and that's going to be applicable whether it's an ordinance or a state law. It doesn't change.
Right.
It's still enforced the same way. He, I know, is getting ready to introduce or is going to propose some language in the next legislative session. He has communicated that he'll be bringing this up.
To strengthen state law.
Correct, yes, sir.
I like now I do like the pamphlet or the bike safety tips that you developed here. I think that's a good idea, and I like the idea of having any business that rents e-bikes, comply with that. But
And that would be in
But that's state
addition
law.
to state law. I don't
Right,
think
yeah.
That is.
That would be an ordinance that we would need to
But
pass.
But I also agree with John. I think seems to me that if we're reinforcing what the state law is, and, and then put in the additional things that we can do as a municipality, that doesn't conflict with state law, that would be good. I mean, and then hopefully Bustos, when he presents recommendations, maybe that will have some weight too. But I think just reinforcing what's already on the book, state law would be the way to go.
Well, I think state law is pretty toothless right now in terms of dealing with the young. I think most of our concerns are with young people and what's happening with them. And first of all, I'd like to say, when it comes to family court, it's a real irritant to the parent if the kid keeps doing stuff that makes the parent and the kid go to family court. So that's at least something you've got to use if that's a problem. The second thing is, we've all been on Palm Boulevard and watched kids do wheelies on Palm Boulevard in front of us in traffic. And every time everybody sees it, it's like somebody's going to get killed. Now, what can you do now about something like that?
As far as I'm aware, there's not anything we can do as long as they are riding their bicycle on the road and following the laws. Other than that, I don't think anything says they have to keep both wheels on there. It's unsafe, don't get me wrong.
Can we, there's nothing that says that we can, whatever you do with your little young kids, bring them in and say, you did something unsafe, and that's, I don't know whether you call it not legal or what you say about something like that. because the activity is definitely unsafe that some of these kids are doing. And, you know, I keep hearing all over, outside the gate, inside the gate at Wild Dunes, it's still the same thing. These kids are just, a kid's gonna get killed.
I don't disagree, and I think, so two things to that. First, it's not just a matter of the family court thing. First, family court's dockets are huge. The number of minors that we are seeing charged with bigger crimes nationwide and in the Charleston area are, in my opinion, are higher than they have been in the past. And so our dockets for that need to be more geared towards those. So what would happen with these is most of these would probably be pushed to youth arbitration, if anything at all. Just because we present it doesn't mean that it's going to move through the system. One thing that we can do by state law that might cut down on some of these things would be the requiring registration of bicycles. We can require everybody to register their bicycles here. We've done that in the past as a department. I don't know when they stopped, but years ago, they've done that. And state law specifically gives the ability to do that. And at least then, that gives us the ability to verify that, hey, these bikes match what's required for an e-bike. Like, I've gotten out with an e-bike before who did not have the stamp on it to say that it is an e-bike, which is required by state law. That gives you the information. So if they're registered with us, we have the ability to make sure that they meet those requirements, educate parents and kids when they're registering them. It would put more work on the police department, and they're probably not going to be crazy about me throwing that out there, but that would be something that.
I think that
I'm
would have
just
a
saying-
marginal impact.
Yeah, and it would be all bikes too, right?
Correct. It
I
would be
mean, we're
everything.
talking anything from unicycles to e-bikes.
Yes, sir.
I don't think you want to get in that.
I'm
I'm
thinking,
not crazy about it, I promise that.
I'm thinking that we're talking about the most egregious cases out there, and I think that's pretty much the way our police department works. We want to keep people safe. So, you know, if a kid's somebody's riding on the sidewalk and they're not supposed to, we're not going to arrest them. But if it's a kid doing wheelies on Palm Boulevard, I certainly would like to be able to do something. You know, and we've watched, I don't know whether it's going to be, maybe we set up a training court or something where the kid has to go to once a month to learn how to use a bike safely or something.
So
or-
we do not have the ability to require them to do anything like that.
We don't have anything like that.
No, the most we can do when it comes to charging them is they can go through youth arbitration, and they may have something they do like that, but we do not have any court intervention abilities on our end to
Okay.
avoid that.
Can we do that in these worst cases now? I mean, if a kid is acting dangerously on the travelway, we could,
We can ask I think the right thing for me to do would be to ask family court and get their buy-in on this. I think that would be important before. I
please do
just-
that. I'm just thinking of the most egregious cases. I'm not talking about every little kid with a bike, but the ones that are doing things that are patently unsafe, dangerous, and, you know,
We'd have to make sure it has to be a violation, and I'll check on what violations a wheelie might apply to. I'm not aware of any off the top of my head. I know we do write tickets to bicyclists. As a matter of fact, the cycling community has identified one of our officers as that guy that will write them tickets for running stop signs. So but we do write tickets to bicyclists, and it is easier when they've got a driver's license because we just write it to the driver's license through the DMV. But it is a little different when they're a minor. But let me see what wheelies apply, and then I'll talk to family court
I
and see
mean,
what we
you know
go.
what I'm
And I-
talking about. Are you seeing them?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're out.
And I think also, on your brochure, I think it would be more helpful to say state law and list the state law instead of safety. A lot of the safety tips are also state law, but like, isn't there a speed limit for e-bikes in state law? I thought it was 20 miles an hour.
No, sir, that is to register it as the class of e-bike that it is. It has to go so many miles on a flat surface with a person that weighs 170 miles per
Yeah,
hour.
I saw that.
And that's the only speed limit
Okay.
that's applied.
I
to
would just
those.
make sure that you have inclusive of all the state laws in that brochure that we're going to hand out, so that we're listening. Instead of passing an ordinance that lists them all, we just have it in a brochure. And I do think it's a good idea to make sure that anybody that rents e-bikes are handing that out so people know
Yeah.
what the state, what the laws are.
I think the one pager is,
I like it.
I like it too. I mean, the more simple you have it, but get the message across.
And I'll tell
If
you,
there's a way to do, if it's too wordy,
No, I think if you have multiple pages, you lose the impact. I think
Yeah.
somebody can look at this and get everything they need off of one page, and I like that piece of it.
when you see it, it folds up into the
Yeah.
little trifold, just
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
And the reason we did not put what was state law and what was not was because if we start putting what's state law and what's not, then we're giving them options. They look at that and they go, well, I don't have to do these.
Yeah.
If we don't put it, somebody from out of town is going to look at this a little bit and go, oh,
But are you confident that you have everything in state law also listed as safety tips or not?
there is no way to fit everything in state law, but we hit the main things. We took, we really looked at what some other municipalities have with these types of brochures and kind of looked at those different things and actually took the hand signals. The drawings are not mine. I took those from the Department of Public Safety, from one of their campaigns they were doing. So
well, that second paragraph you have on the safety tips does
Yeah, something.
strongly mention state law and references South Carolina state law. And it's also good, too, that you have our own municipal ordinance about riding, the prohibition of riding e-bikes between Memorial Day and Labor Day. It's good.
And then I guess what we can do is look at anything we want to add at next meeting in terms of our own ordinance, like requirement of handing these out. Chief, if you'd mentioned that maybe one other one, I thought.
Helmet. What was that?
And anything that we want to make as part of our own ordinance related to e-bikes, in addition to what state law is. If there's anything else, we should come prepared at the next meeting to kind of have the language drafted up so we know what that would be.
Is there anything else?
The only, and it would be up to y'all, first off, I would like to go visit businesses that already rent them out and see if, because I'm pretty confident most of them are going to want to participate with this, especially if they're renting them, because it damages their equipment if they don't. Before we made it an ordinance, like Hilton Head had the ordinance that requires businesses to give them
Yeah,
out.
they even have it, if they violate it so many times, it's created it's a nuisance, or it falls into their nuisance ordinance.
Right.
It's a pretty stringent.
It is. I'd rather first go visit them, because I'm pretty sure most of them are going to be okay with this, because we got one for golf carts and LSVs, and so we want to do the same thing with those businesses and get them compliant on their own, just wanting to be part of it without making an ordinance. But if there's any ordinances, I'll talk it over with Douglas and our staff and see if there's anything that I'm missing or that stood out, and we'll come prepared at the next one.
I would really like just if you can find the wording after discussing it about, something about dangerous behavior on a bike is prosecutable, I don't know, whatever you can do that, maybe in bold print or something on here. But
I know the other one you said.
we're
said something about
grappling with that
vandalism.
here, so if it can be done,
Yeah.
that would be nice.
Well, and originally I was thinking vandalism, but it's already covered under our vandalism. We could, and that'll be up to, I can bring it, and then we can kind of discuss if we want to.
Whatever you suggest, I think.
And can I have one of your printed brochures? I'm going to give it to the Wild Dunes group, see if, I don't know whether they have those or not.
Chief, on the agenda, or Douglas also, for item D, we have discussion of e-bike and motorized scooter regulations. Is there anything in addition to what we've discussed here today that we need to recognize or bring up about motorized scooter, which I'm assuming is really a moped, right?
Well, when you get to a moped, that is a vehicle identified by state law and it applies, it's got its own laws, and every other vehicular law applies to those. So I don't know that there's anything we would do different. I
Okay.
think they just put it on there because you've got those electric scooters that kids are riding now.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Probably would fall into the same type of category, but under state law, I don't think they're identified as a bike, or they could be, it depends, looking at it, they don't have pedals, so it probably does not fall under electric assist bike, so that would be, if we wanted to address that, we would need to pass our own ordinances. It could really mimic what's in state law for bikes already, if we wanted to look specifically at electric scooters.
And skateboards and everything else, whatever vehicle, those, I don't know, how do you classify them? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you'll come back next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next item is discussion of scope of future traffic study. I think there's a proposal in the packet from July 10th of what we were talking about, but I think one of the, if I remember correct from our last meeting, we were going to investigate who wanted to participate in a traffic study with us and try to get some determination from them whether they're in or they're out by this meeting. So I don't know, do you have an update on that, Douglas? Or?
Jan, did you say that you have had contact with the town of Mount Pleasant, and their committee indicated that they did have interest, but they're,
Okay, this is where I left it. I appeared at the, the Transportation Committee meeting in August for the town of Mount Pleasant. And I was there with the intention of just listening and not speaking, but they asked me to speak because they had heard that we were ready to start a study. And they wanted to know that we had, actually, they had thought we had postponed it. So I told them about what we had passed or discussed, which was that we wanted to have our own traffic study starting sometime this fall. At that point, they went into public discussion, and decided that they would like to be part of that study. And at the end of the meeting, they sort of indicated that they wanted to form a committee. So I brought it back to us, and that's where it stood, thinking that the two staff-level people would get together, whoever, and talk to each other how this was going to go about. So I'm throwing it back into your
okay.
court, Douglas.
Was Eric Demora at the meeting? Was the city administrator from Mount Pleasant at that meeting?
I believe so. It was the regular monthly Transportation
yeah.
Committee meeting.
Yeah, we have regular contact with James Aton and Brad that are the transportation staff people, so we'll.
Yeah, they
we'll
have a
just-
larger staff,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we'll
they-
just reach
yeah.
out to them and
Yeah,
just see
yes.
what their,
Okay.
gauge their level of interest.
Okay, now the mayor has I thought you had talked to the mayor about this because he has had some contact. And so that I didn't confuse things, it seemed like the mayor was,
I think the
Making
mayor was
relationships.
confirming with the town of Sullivan's Island as well, to see if it would be a
Well,
three-part.
actually, we were talking about 4, because we talked to the council of whatever
well,
it is, of
Mount
government.
Yeah.
Pleasant, Sullivan's Island, Isle
Yeah.
of Palms, possibly the county, and the council of governments could be involved as a sort of
We-
facilitator for
We
it.
did have conversations with Catherine, with the Council of Governments. It's definitely in their
Wheelhouse.
wheelhouse of things that they do. They could also be kind of a non-biased steering committee. They would be willing, I think, to work with us if that was the will of the group.
Yeah, I think we need to get some, I don't think we need any kind of council of government, and if we don't have the interest
Well-
from the other
Right.
cities. I think the first kind of hurdle to jump over is, are they willing to participate in this? And if so, then we can go to the council of governors and say, hey, we got multiple municipalities here, and maybe need some kind of central kind of oversight of it to help orchestrate. I think the more we get involved, the more complicated it gets, the longer it takes, the less decisions we make. And so I'd be careful on personally, but I think we can
Yeah.
talk about it once.
Well,
Well, I think we did agree that just doing it unilaterally as our municipality probably wouldn't be very effective if we didn't have other local municipalities involved,
Primarily Mount Pleasant.
primarily Mount Pleasant.
well, what I'd like to say is that, first of all, with respect to the Council of Government, they have experience doing these kind of studies. They have expertise. They also have resources of several on-call consulting firms, Stantec as well as others that we are familiar with. And so they could probably expedite that process. They're more familiar with how this work is done than, our city is, I think. So I think that's a good idea. And they said they could probably chip in some money too.
Well, I'm all for it. I just want to
Yeah.
move the ball
Yeah.
forward. So we
Yeah.
So would
So
the,
I think they might.
would
speed
the
it
hope
up.
be
So the second thing
Town of Mount
is,
Pleasant, Sullivan's Island, the city, and potentially Council of Governments kind of
Yeah.
overseeing the process, steering.
Right.
So
Yeah.
can we
Now,
at
I
least
don't know
have some
what-
indication by the October meeting of like who's in, who's out
Yep.
then?
yeah. And I'm not so sure, just selfishly, I think we could have a good study. I think it's important that Mount Pleasant, if we can draw them in, is involved, because they're at the other end of the connector, and they govern what happens with traffic getting on and off the island. With Sullivan's Island, we don't directly affect each other that much. Indirectly, there is some traffic back and forth, but not much. So it would be up to whether that was an insistence of Mount Pleasant, I think, whether they wanted to
There's
include
one of two
Sullivan's.
ways on and off this island. I think
Yeah,
it's courteous and the right thing to do to include Sullivan's to the extent that they'd want to get involved.
okay. I mean, I said it was selfish. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
we'll pursue all
Yeah.
three with potential for the Council of Governments to help us with that. So I'll reach out to them.
Thank you.
And then this proposed scope of work that's in here is just an example. I don't want it to be the one that has to be followed. And I think one of the things we should do is when we hire a consultant is we can define, we're really good at defining the problem, but let them
Right.
help us
I-
craft the solutions.
I agree with that, yeah. We ought to ask for solutions and not be so, tell them
Yeah.
how to do it. so
Right,
much, yeah.
right.
All right, next item is discussion of public safety-related matrix recommendations. We've listed a few in here. Douglas, what are we gonna, we're covering, I think, all those, right, with some agenda item.
I think so.
This,
We
a lot of
haven't-
it's around this traffic study. Some of it's with, the first one is golf cart rental companies, the communication piece. I think we do that, right?
What we're finalizing the brochure now, updating it with all the new state laws.
Yeah.
Some of these businesses
They're already doing it.
They're already doing it on
Yeah,
their own
yeah.
and set the
If you're,
example.
if you're finalizing that, when we can bring it here and review it when you're done with that, just to
Right.
see it.
It'll be here in
Yeah,
October.
Yeah,
So let us,
a lot
for
of it's
the,
traffic related.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think a lot of
it's,
it will be.
Yeah,
So we've been trying to kind of categorize things as either underway and,
Yeah.
or dealt with. So let us work on kind of color coding this
Yeah.
and putting some,
and if there's something that we
updates
need
to it.
to, we can add it to an agenda item.
Yep.
But I think, like I said, I think most of them are being taken.
kind of
care
underway.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right,
I think the second one, just for everybody's knowledge,
Yeah.
based on my understanding of the laws and what we can and cannot do with golf carts, we are not able to enforce that
Get
or
into the
require
signs
that.
up, passing
Correct,
it,
we
we-
can't.
Yeah.
We can't require that.
Okay.
but they get they're registered.
So do, when they register at the DMV gives them everything. We cannot require it by ordinance or anything, so.
Okay.
Yeah, this matrix language would predate the golf cart law that
Yeah.
came out, so it would make sense
Yeah.
that things would
So
have
we can
changed.
mark complete on them if there's
Yeah.
something we can do. with
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
We'll update that.
All right, the next item is the discussion of marina boat ramp safety. I assume this is in relation to the Uber that drove into the water there.
Yeah.
And the second time that's occurred.
Yeah. So the first time I think
Beyond
we,
me how that happens, but,
It was
dark.
It was dark that night, and the rain was pouring. It was definitely not the best night to be driving anywhere.
Yeah.
But before we jump into everything else, I do want to point out I will be making a recommendation, like I did last time for the two individuals that jumped in. I'll be making a recommendation that we recognize them this month for their heroic actions. Just-
where were
Yeah.
they from? They weren't from Islander 71, right? They were
No, no, sir, I believe they were coming in off of a boat. Neither of them live in this area.
Yeah.
If I understood correctly, one is in the Columbia area and one is in the Greenville area,
Yeah,
so.
huh. Yeah, well, I saw the video of it, and it's, thankful that they did. That car was going pretty far in and sinking pretty fast, so.
Yes, sir, they did it, they were heroes, and I'll be recommending
Yeah,
that
great.
we do the same thing.
But do you, I mean, maybe you can just frame what you think happened and what the problem is, and I don't know if you have any kind of recommendations on what we ought to do.
We've talked about it in the
Yeah.
PD, and haven't had a chance to sit down with Chief Oliveris yet, but I'm pretty sure he would probably be on the same page with this. But if we could put a low illuminating light that's kind of blinking to give caution that, hey, there's a ramp here or something on the ramp, that might be something that would catch our attention if it was more of an amber color, just to, and obviously don't want to get too bright because we don't want to impact too much, but we want something that gets their attention. That there was a white line painted at the stop bar at the stop sign, but it was so dark that night with the rain and everything going, I don't know that it was necessarily very visible.
How would Uber, I mean, how would Google tell a driver, did it actually say to turn right or left into the water there? I mean,
No, sir, this one did not. He was trying to get as close to the restaurant as possible to keep his passengers that he was picking up from having to get into the rain.
Okay.
And
So the news reports were inaccurate on that.
so the one before, the
It
first
turned,
one,
yeah.
was following a GPS that took them down.
did he take a wrong turn, or did the GPS
Yeah.
actually tell him to go into the water?
According to what the driver of that one said, when they pulled out, the GPS said turn left or right, whichever way he was turning, and he turned the route that the GPS told him to.
I don't know if there's something.
Did we get in touch with the GPS people to tell them about that problem? Because a lot of times you can call up Waze or whatever, Google, and they will change the directions in their
We
programming.
can look at that
Yeah.
to see.
So
which
we
one
definitely need
uses
to
them.
check into that.
Have we tested it ourselves? I mean, go down
Mine
there.
has never told me to turn down that way.
Yeah.
And I use two different types of GPS. And
So
Well,
you've
you can
never
do that.
had that, okay, turn
Okay.
right here.
But what you can do as well is, I know going in and out of Wild Dunes, the back gate is not listed, and it tells you to turn onto actually the next street beyond the back gate, but most people see the back gate first and turn. So it's just a minor glitch, and you can call, I know in other places, especially with Waze, when they redirect traffic during congestion, communities have complained and they've quit doing that. So you can make those changes.
Scott, who's managing marinas here, I don't know if you have any, before we kind of talk about any kind of recommendations or anything, do you have any comments you want to make? I mean, I think we'd like to hear them.
Specifically in regards to the previous incident, my speculation, I'm no expert on any of it, is that when you turn on your GPS and sometimes it hasn't actually located you and it's still telling you, take a left on Calhoun Street.
Yeah.
But you're still in a parking lot, so you can't physically turn left. That's what I would believe happened that
Yeah.
first time, as it was saying to turn left on a 41st, but they weren't completely calibrated as to where they were.
I got you.
And they didn't know the difference between 41st and the boat ramp street,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, that goes that way. That would be my speculation on that. Can you fix that? I don't really know. I think once it pinpoints you, then it can give you more accurate direction. So I don't know that that's fixable or changeable. Again, I'm not an expert, but I've been in situations where I've started my car and seen that it's telling me to turn when there is no turn, and then once it finally pinpoints where you actually are, then that becomes more
Yeah,
clear.
I've had that. I've had that happen
As
too.
to
Same
why
here.
that particular couple was not from around here, so it really makes sense that they wouldn't know the difference. Then, let's see, after that, we did paint the white line, I think you mentioned, put the reflectors on the post on either side of the boat ramp. The conditions that night make both of those, they're there, but that night, I don't think anything was helping. What we have on hand now is the kind of reflective post that will go between there's 3 lanes on that boat ramp, so between all 3, so there's 2 total. It's reflective, it's like spring-loaded, so if someone backs into it with a trailer while they're taking a boat down, it'll bend and come back up. That, to my knowledge, had been there long ago. people hit them every day, so then they go away and have to be replaced, so that'll be an ongoing kind of.
Back up like I do, I guess.
kind of maintenance thing. But that I have those on hand. They came in over the weekend. Our maintenance team is going to be installing those any day now. Could be today. Could be sometime very soon. I think that'll be a helpful step. Lighting is something that has been discussed to a big degree, and I think that everyone's in agreement on that.
I mean, Chief mentioned some kind of maybe a little blinking light. Are you? In
Yeah,
agreement with that?
and in that location on the marina side, there's a little kayak shack, so we have power right there. On the Islander 71 side is their bandstand right there, kind of at the top of the ramp with power. So I think between those two, I know we're happy to work with, where that light would be, what it would look like, whatever we gotta do, we'll do it. I would imagine that Islander would be on board to do the same. So I think that between those two locations, right there at the top of the ramp, we have power and structure to attach to. I know that, as you mentioned, how bright is it? Which direction does it go? I know that there's all sorts of stuff involved with that. So really, I think whatever fits within those guidelines and rules, and then just, hey, this is what we want, we'll take care of it. There was something else. But I think that's really the extent of what can really be done to keep it unobstructed for emergency use or anything else, but also at the same time being safe. And I think
So to put these blinking lights in, does council need to do anything, or is that something that?
Are they- I'm assuming they're like a battery, a solar-powered LED.
I have no idea. This was an idea.
There's a stop sign in Wild Dunes now that's flashing. Looks like a Christmas wreath almost with a solar panel right on, little solar panel.
Most of them are solar paneled
Yeah.
at this point, so they could be powered just
I think it's
that
gotta
way.
be a project to investigate, what kind of,
Right.
what kind of light, but I'm just, my question is, does council need to authorize that project to move forward?
Not
Or
a-
would the marina, is that something the marina, you guys would do, or?
that's the question that I
So-
don't think anyone truly knows the
Yeah,
answer
yeah.
yet.
Yeah, the ramp is actually outside of their
Okay,
lease property, so it's the
City
city's
city
ramp.
responsibility.
I guess what we've talked about so far, it sounds like it's underway and new, or the spring-loaded dividers,
Yep.
potential to add lights on either side. I know I've talked to Scott about it. I don't know that I've talked to Islander. Excuse me. And then I haven't looked into the blinking lights.
well, if we,
Check with Wild Dunes and see, they could tell you how they got theirs, how much it cost, and.
But this is you're talking about a ground level,
Yeah.
like a
Yes, sir. And we-
embedded in the, not a.
I don't
This is
necessarily
a
want to
flashing
design
stop
it either.
sign, so it actually might be better.
We have vendors that we use, you wouldn't want to use a stop sign, I think it'll be confusing, but definitely a light amber color is
Yeah.
kind of what I'm picturing, and we'll dig into it.
I'm
We'll
not
have-
suggesting we design it here, all I'm trying to figure out how do we move it forward, so if you need us to approve, or do you just go do it, bring a project then back to us and say, yeah, we'll approve that
It probably
project?
would be
If
an
there's
expense.
if there's an expense trigger that we can and can't
Yeah,
do. If
okay.
it gets expensive, it would come.
Well, I think it's a good
council.
idea to put the lights in. I think the marina's in agreement to it. The chief recommending it. I think we should move forward with a project personally and then bring it back and we can talk about the cost and.
I agree.
Do whatever. we
And
need.
by the way, do we know what, like Shim Creek Landing,
There's nothing.
there's nothing there.
I drove to
Yeah.
Shim Creek and Remley's
Uh-huh.
later that week to see, are we in compliance? Is there something that we're all missing? And I can show you the pictures on my phone.
You probably don't have a restaurant next to them though, right? So that's.
No, but you've
All up
got,
and down there.
But
you've
Shim-
got a road that's accessible.
Right.
And there is no signage, there's a light, kind of, we've got a light on the kayak shack that shines there.
Yeah.
There's nothing more significant than that at either of those, which to my knowledge, those are both done by Charleston County Parks and Recreation.
Is it?
I
Well,
think so.
well,
So you would think that at the county level, like, if there were a requirement for a sign, that they would be the first ones to do it?
Well, and I checked some,
Yeah, well,
Dorchester
historically,
County too, and they didn't have
historically,
anything.
the Shim Creek landing was much more accessible over the years with, Shim Creek Bar and Grill and all that there, and there were cars and people found.
I mean, after the first one occurred, I didn't
They
think we
drove
had
off
another
into
one.
that thing.
That's a one-off thing right there, and then we had another one. I'm
Well, I
thinking,
think we
maybe
do
we ought
have-
to do something.
Yeah, we do have some liability there because it is
Yeah.
a city
Yeah.
property, so I think we definitely need
But it
to
seems like,
do
Chair, it
something.
seems like we're on
Yeah.
the right path here. I
Yeah.
mean, with what
Yeah.
they're recommending and,
Yeah, I think if you just move forward
Yeah.
with what the.
yeah.
We'll do what we
project,
can
Yeah.
within our budget. If there's something that kind of bubbles up,
Then
that's.
bring it back for
I'll
approval.
bring it back.
Yeah.
We'll just, kind of like the breach inlet signage, we'll just kind of
Yeah.
keep you up to date until we get
All
it
right.
done. Thank you,
Great.
Scott.
Thanks,
for being
Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank y'all.
All right, the miscellaneous business is next, the next meeting date. So is October 7th on a Tuesday? That's
Yes.
the first Tuesday in, first, yeah. All right, so at 11 a.m.
Chair, I did want to give a quick update. Jan asked that we just provide an update on the crosswalks
that's right.
outside of, kind of leading across from Wildwood towards the beach.
Yeah.
43rd, 46 specifically. Those owners, a handful of those owners reached out to the DOT. DOT reached out to us and just kind of talked us through what they had planned to do in response to those inquiries. They noticed that there is a lack of the ADA kind of rumble strips, we call them. So they are proposing to add those new ADA landing strips on the ocean side of Palm, 43rd, 46th, and then add they call it the ladder style crosswalk. I guess that's the bright lines with the perpendicular lines. And they would put that out to bid, so they wouldn't do it internally, which they can turn around quicker if it's internally. They were going to go out to hire third parties, so they told us to expect that work within about 60 days, and that's now probably been three weeks ago or so. So another month and a half or so, they should be making those improvements.
Okay,
this
and that
was-
is for 43rd and 46th?
Correct.
Okay, because I heard before 43rd they weren't going to do because it was too close to 41st Avenue. That's not a
That's not
problem
the
anymore.
case. That's not.
That was, this actually had been on the agenda back in March. I think I brought it up early on about, having one of the residents that lives on 43rd approaching about the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And at first, it was recommended 42nd, which is entirely too close to the three-way stop because it's just right there after
Well,
you
there's
make the
there's
turn.
another crosswalk there.
We had it down as something we were going to be looking into in terms of repainting stripes or whatever, and it fell by the wayside. I asked for an update one time, got an update, but we still didn't have anything done. And of course, when we had more residents who brought it up last month, it seems to have gotten some
Right.
impetus to it, so,
So we're actually being responsive. Good.
yeah.
All right, being no further business,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye. Well,